Since living in Australia, I become aware of the things that I take for granted that are not considered a norm in Western country, including Australia. I was born and grew up in Jakarta, Indonesia, and as you can tell from my face, that makes me a Chinese Indonesian. In this video, I'm going to share 4 things that I think I take for granted for too long, and I believe that the Chinese culture or heritage that I grew up with having play a huge role in that. To state the obvious, what I'm sharing here is not a reflection of all the Chinese Indonesians, my parents, or Asians in general. I'm telling you as I experience it. And this is not to say which culture or heritage is better or worse than the others. So let's get a move on. There are 2 things that my parents won't save their money on. First, educations, and second, health. Now I'm going to talk about the educations. When I was a kid, I didn't consider that going to private, expensive school as a privilege because everyone around me, including the Chinese Indonesian neighborhoods, they all went to private school. And all parents want the best for the kids, right? So I thought that's normal. They also paid for all my additional tutoring and education related fees all the way to university. And they're not rich, by the way. They just save harder than anyone I know. So I was a bit surprised when I learned that my Australian friends, they need to take out the student loans or known as HECS in Australia to get to the university. So when after we all graduate, at least I still have some money left over from my parents, but they start from negative net worth. So that's quite a bit of advantage that I didn't realize back then. Next perk, being a health conscious. When I was a kid, I hardly had a junk food. Well, partly because a fast food chain like McDonald's is considered a luxury back then. And we also have freshly home-cooked meal every day. But here in Australia, I see that people drink Coke like they drink water, and they're perfectly happy to have like a fish and chips as the main meal. Some people just find it that they're perfectly fine having just a single meat pie for lunch. Thinking back, staying healthy is probably the logical thing to do because in Indonesia we have some sort of Medicare called BPJS, but it's not perfect. But it's not like the way how the Medicare works here in Australia. So it's a logical thing to do to stay healthy because the medical bills can break the family, and you need to probably have to sell your assets, your house, if you get really sick. So yeah, I think that's probably why we are pretty much health conscious to save money. Let's go to the next perk, being wise, money wise. I'm not sure whether it's just my family, but for us, being on top of our finance means that we have substantial money on the side, emergency fund as you said, and we also have like a stable income, and we also have like some side income from the investments or side gig. That's what we mean by staying on top of our finance. But here in Australia, when people say that they're on top of their finance, what they mean is that they can cover all the credit card repayments. I find that crazy. And I'm saying some, not all, by the way. And also, what I noticed is that I start to learn things like debt recycling, negative gearings, that sort of stuff. So I find that people are more comfortable with that. When I was a kid, I hate my dad being so cheap. I hate that I can't get the toys that I want. But now I grew up and also have a young family. Now I start to realize that I start to appreciate what he did. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to afford the university fees for us. And also, my parents never taught me to just do whatever you want to do as long as you're happy, follow your passion. No, they said none of that. They are more practical. They said that they encouraged me to do either run my own business or get a high-paying, stable job. I have none of them. That's why I started this YouTube channel. And last perk, extended family help. I think this is applicable to most Asians, not only Chinese Indonesians. There's a story here. Few years ago, when my ex-colleague become a grandma, I asked her, so do you reckon that you're going to babysit for your grandkids? And she went like, excuse me, they made the baby, now I need to take care of the baby too? Well, it's completely different attitude compared to most Asians. Well, for us, first of all, for us, family is more than just parents and the kids. That includes your uncles, aunties, in-laws, nephew, and so on and so forth, as long as they are still blood related or become a family by marriage. If you feel close to them and you feel comfortable with them, you can count on them for help, and in return you are expected to do the same. I know some families here in our neighborhoods, they have a grandparents live with them. So the grandparents help to pick up and drop the kids to school, and also help with the house chores. And in returns, when they grow too sick or too old, the kids will look after them. I know it's probably it's a bit too much for some Western people. Now you might think that's not a perk, that's a pain. And what sort of parents is that to treat the kids as an investment? That's a fair point, by the way. Some Western families I know, they can't imagine living with their adult kids. Well, after the hard work of parenting behind them, they expect a bit of privacy and also a bit of freedom. And definitely not all Chinese Indonesians look after their parents like me. I live in Australia and my parents still live in Indonesia. I don't look after them. What I'm trying to say is that most of us don't feel bad when we need help and we ask for the extended family help. And that includes money, like giving money to help paying down the medical bills. Well, again, I'm just sharing this story because I start to realize the things that I take for granted for too long, and I believe that the culture I grew up with play a role in that. And I'm not saying that one culture is better or worse compared to the others. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not suggesting that at all. Please give it a like and subscribe if you learned something new. I'll see you next time. Bye.